Okay, everybody. Welcome on this wonderful Wednesday afternoon to our wonderful world of Wool-Ease class. Try saying that 5 times fast. My name is Claire. I'll be hanging out with you guys in the chat, answering any questions there directly. Darren, we may need to spotlight him, but Darren will be the one leading the class there. He's showing off some of the Wool-Ease Thick and Quick colors. There we go. He'll be showing those as well as some other members of the Wool-Ease family, and we'll be talking you through their yarn properties, what they're made of, what kind of projects they'll be good for, all of that. If you have any questions on the yarns that we're talking about, go ahead and use that chat. If you need technical help, go ahead and contact Rich, like we said. And now that more announcements are out of the way, we'll let Darren get started.
All right, welcome to class. Today we're going to be just going to be reviewing the different types of Wool-Ease yarn. We've got a new one a couple of new ones that we're really excited about. And we've got some great projects to show, and I have some patterns to share. So let's just jump right in. The first one we're going to talk about is called Wool-Ease Air. And it's really almost as light as air. It's almost like a cloud. You can see how fluffy and how fuzzy it is. So it has that similar look to mohair, but it's not mohair. It's very soft, it's very fluffy, and it's very fuzzy. What do you think of this one, Claire?
I was going to say this one is so new that I haven't had a chance to get it onto my needles yet, but I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully, the weather will actually cool down and stay cool for fall soon so we can try out some fun stuff.
Here's a sweater, a granny score sweater that I made with it. It's really fun to work with. It really works up in a nice fuzzy. It gives you a great texture. It's very warm. So even though this sweater is made out of granny squares and it has all the holes in it, it's still extremely warm. So it's a good idea to make maybe a sweater like this with the holes in it, unless if you want a really, really warm sweater. If you need a really, really warm sweater, this is the yarn to go to. And here is another sweater that was made. I didn't make this one. This one is made with it, and it's also using a worsted weight yarn in between. So it's got like tone on tone stripes. You could use Wool-Ease as the alternate yarn, don't you think, Claire? Do you think regular Wool-Ease worsted would be good?
Yeah, this is the project that I think I want to make. I like the sort of tonal and textured stripes combined.
Yeah, and you could do different colors too to make it more stripy if you wanted.
That's true. You could make more than one and do both.
Yeah. What do you think, Molly? Do you like this one?
I do. I think it's very cool.
Very cool. And then also, and we're going to be teaching a class on these mittens coming up. Do we have the date of that?
Yeah, it's next Monday.
Next Monday. So we're going to be teaching a class on how to make these mittens. We'll be reviewing knitting in the round and some increases and decreases and some other fun tricks. So that will be a fun class. So, and these mittens are also made out of the Wool-Ease Air. So you can see the stitch definition. You can actually see the stitches even though it's very fuzzy. So it's a really good yarn. So what other projects would you say, Claire, would be good for that one?
I would say that you could also use it, if you don't want to commit to a full fuzzy project, you could certainly use it as like accent or trim on the mitten cuffs or collar of a sweater,
Yeah.
little fuzzy cuffs on a slipper.
Okay, can we switch to my overhead camera? So my overhead camera is pinned. And I'm going to show some things that way now that the sweaters are out of the way. So here's the label. Here's what it looks like. And this yarn, it comes in 12 colors. So the colors are really, really fun. And I printed this right off Michael's page. So you can see all the colors that Michael's has available and you can order them. So lots of really, really fun colors. You can mix and match with them. And it is considered a super bulky yarn. It's a number 6. It's 74% acrylic, 13% wool, and 13% polyester. So even though it looks like mohair and it has that great fuzziness, it doesn't have any mohair in it. So a lot of people are allergic to mohair or find it to be fuzzy or uncomfortable. I happen to love mohair. How do you feel about mohair, Claire? Do you like it?
like it in small doses. Yes, it can get pretty warm, certainly. So this
Yes,
might
it's
be a good
very warm.
alternative.
Yeah, this is a great alternative. You get 100 grams, and that equals 218 yards, which goes a long way. So it's really a great value. Do we have the price on it?
Yeah, it's $9.99, and I actually just dropped a link in the chat so that if people are interested in seeing the color assortment closer up or want to purchase it, they can totally do that.
Yeah, so $9.99 for 218 yards. That's a great value. You can really get a lot of knitting even just out of one ball. And the suggested needle size is a US 10, a 6 millimeter. And the suggested crochet hook size is a 6 millimeter or a J. So it's a little smaller of a hook than what's usually recommended for a number 6 weight, but because it's so fuzzy and it really fluffs out, that's why it's categorized as a number 6. And I wanted to show a few patterns. We actually have the patterns for them. This is a sweater, and you can see the pictures of it. It's really, really a pretty sweater, this green kind of oversized long sweater. And you can print these patterns from lionbrand.com. And this one is a crochet, it's a blanket. Let's see if I can get it on it. Sorry, I'm not good at this. Okay, so it's a crocheted blanket, and that one's really beautiful. And that would be really light. It'd be very warm, but like kind of light as air. And so this one's also available on Lion Brand. And then this shawl is also crochet, and it's really cute. And you could probably whip this up really fast. This could be a great gift because I don't think it would take very long at all. So any questions about this yarn? The first sweater I showed with the granny squares, it's made, I used this pattern to make it. Now, this is not Wool-Ease Air, but you can mix and match different types of patterns. As long as your granny squares are the right size, you can, make it with different yarn, and your gauge will be all right, as long as you match the gauge of the pattern. So, any questions about that? Any of that?
So, what are your tips for crocheting with this yarn since it is so fuzzy? I know that sometimes it can be harder to crochet with fuzzy yarns like that.
Well, when you're crocheting the granny squares, that's why granny squares are great with this as a first project, because you're going into this chain one space, so you don't really have to find the stitch. So if you're not comfortable using really, really fuzzy yarn when you're crocheting, the granny square is nice because you're going into that space and you don't have to find the stitch. And then after you've worked with it a little bit and made several granny squares, then it becomes easier. Your eyes start adjusting to it, and it becomes easier to identify your stitches. And one thing when I'm crocheting, I can't always see the stitch when it's very fuzzy, but you just have to kind of feel for the stitch. But with this one, it is like you can see, I don't know if you can see because it's black, but you can see the stitches fairly easy, much easier than you think it's going to be. But this is black, so it might not be showing up as well. But if you feel for the stitch and then just look, if you're using black, maybe black's not the best color to use if you're just starting out with a fuzzy yarn. A lighter color would show the stitches easier. But like on this white part, well, that bleaches out because of the light. The lighter ones will be easier to find the stitch, but just have a bright light and just, yeah, sometimes you do have to kind of feel for it. Do you have any tricks for that, Claire?
No, I was going to say I usually, with a fuzzy or a fluffy yarn like that is much easier to feel with your fingers where that stitch
Yeah.
is rather than trying to find it with your eyes. And yes, good lighting and patience are also key.
Yeah, and if you put it in the wrong place and the yarn's really fuzzy, it might not make a big deal anyway, right? If you can't see the stitch, nobody else will.
That's true.
Maybe.
That fuzzy yarn hides a multitude of sins.
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like that kind of a theory, but I like the theory. I like a theory like that.
Melissa in our comments said that mohair is itchy but beautiful. And I'm assuming that Wool-Ease Air, because it's not actually mohair, is probably less itchy, right?
It is less itchy. It's not really itchy at all. I don't find it itchy. It is very warm. I made that sweater it was still summertime, and when one of the ladies at work was trying it on, it was very warm and uncomfortable. And sometimes when you're overly warm in a sweater, it feels itchy, just because you're overly warm. So if you don't, just if you're wearing it in the proper weather where it's very cold, I don't think you'll find it itchy at all.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And then, itch is also such a personal thing, but I've got a mitten right here. I'm feeling. You can't tell, but it is, I would say it's fairly soft, like next to skin.
Yeah, yeah. And I really enjoyed working with it. I really thought it was a great texture, and the fuzziness blended the colors of the granny squares together very nicely. And yeah, it was really a lot of fun.
Yeah. And question from Jennifer, how does this compare with the Woolies Thick and Quick, like for a scarf? How many skeins do you think you'd need?
I don't think you'd need more than two. The Woolies Thick and Quick, the regular solid color is like right here. I have that right here to show. And this one has 106 yards, where the Woolies Air has 218. So I think one might give you, if you're working on a looser gauge, or no more than two. What would you think, Claire? Two or one?
Yeah, I mean, depends, of course, on how big a scarf you want. But if you just want one of those, that like you lay over your neck and cross over and tuck into the top of your coat, probably one is enough for that. But
Yeah.
go for two for a regular scarf, or three if you want a big dramatic Lenny Kravitz scarf.
So if you look at the Woolies Thick and Quick and the Woolies Air next to each other, because the Woolies Air is so fluffy and fuzzy, they really look like they're almost the same size. Doesn't it look like the same size? What do you think, Molly?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I think they compare very nicely. So
It's fun. The air looks roving when you place it next to.
yeah, it's not. It's more like a. Would you say it's almost like a chenille-ish spin? How would you describe this spin?
I wouldn't say it's really a chenille. To me, that's a
Not
lot more
really.
dense. Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is, very, very light and lofty and fluffy.
The fibers are kind of coming out of a center string there, like kind of like how chenille does. But it's not, I would not call it a chenille either, but that's kind of the structure of it. If you guys can see. Now if that helps. Can't really see the center core in it, but all right, any other questions?
Oh, good question. Melissa wants to know about the washing instructions for this yarn.
Oh, that is always very important. It is hand wash, lay flat to dry. So I would be, because of the fuzzy nature of it, I would be very, very gentle with it. Use a very mild soap that's designed for like hand knits. Maybe just soak it in the tub and, dry it. Be careful picking it up when it's wet. You don't want to let it stretch. That's yeah, don't you, but it is hand wash, lay flat to dry. So be very careful with it.
Yeah, you don't want all that fuzz coming off and then ending up with clumps in your washer or your dryer.
Yeah, and then it'll be a sad sweater at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We ready to go on to Woolies Thick and Quick?
All right, let's move into a classic here.
Yeah, so since we had that one up already, let's go ahead and look at that. And this one, it is a classic. This one's been around since like 1992, right?
Oh, longer than I've been at Lion Brand for sure.
Yeah, I heard someone talking about this the other day, and it's been around since the 90s, like 91 or 92.
Yeah.
So it's a classic, and it's one of the most, I'm going to say it, I think it's one of the most popular yarns. Maybe I'm jumping the gun by saying that, but it is extremely popular. People have loved this yarn really for centuries, because it's even though it's not a century old, but it was in the 1900s. Now it's in the 2000s. So it's kind of spanning across the centuries. So it's very, very popular.
Now, Darren, what does that say about us? It's our
Yes.
ages.
Yes, I span centuries too. I span centuries as well. Michaels has 25 colors available on this one. There are, well, they're actually more than that because we've broken it up into, so we have solid colors, we have prints and stripes, and then we have a variegated one that we're going to kind of look at separately. So for the solids and the tweeds, there are 25 colors available. And what, do you have the price on this one handy?
Yes, I believe it's $8.99, but hold on.
Yeah, so it's a great price. It is 80% acrylic, 20% wool. It is a super bulky. And it is 6 ounces, 170 grams. And these solid color ones have 106 yards. And the other ones will have different yardage, the ones that have a feature to the yarn, like a color feature. They tend to be a little, have a little less yardage on them. So has anyone in our audience worked with this one before?
I'll give people a
Here's,
chance to get their typing fingers ready.
here's a peek at some of the colors I printed from Michael's page. Just so you can see it's a really wide variety of colors. Lots of fun choices. And this one is a machine wash and dry. So you can put it in the washer and you can put it in the dryer. Do you wash and dry your hand knits in the washer and dryer if they're able to, Claire?
I personally don't because I don't have a washer dryer in my apartment, the joys of city living.
Yes.
But if I had a home washer and dryer, certainly.
I always hand wash my hand knits. Actually, no, I take that back. I just put a sweater in the washer and dryer. So I usually wash my hand knits because they tend to, it lasts. I think it keeps them nicer. But this one is able to wash and be dried in the washing machine and in the dryer. Okay. Any questions?
Just to go back to that point about the solids and the prints having different yardage, it is just because of, the different costs involved in making those different colors. But that is a good point to be aware of if you're making a pattern and it calls for, say, a solid color and you want to use a variegated, just double check and do that math for the total yardage rather than just relying on the number of skeins. So,
Yeah, you might need an extra ball or two depending on how big the project is. So this is a really fun project, and this is a crochet project using the Woolies Thick and Quick. And an Afghan would crochet up super fast in this yarn. It would be a really quick project. And this one is a knitting pattern using Woolies Thick and Quick. So it's also a blanket. I like blankets in these big yarns because blankets are big projects and they kind of go faster with big yarns. It's kind of a fun. And then here is a sweater using it. So there are lots of patterns available. So when you buy this yarn, you'll be able to get lots and lots of patterns. There's really tons of patterns with this one. And then also you can substitute it with any other pattern that's using a number 6 or bulky yarn. So don't hesitate to do that. What other questions? Any other questions?
What size hook and needles are recommended for this yarn?
This one, it calls for a 9mm knitting needle, which is a size US 13, or a 9mm crochet hook, which is an N, a US N. So nice and big. And you could go up a size if you want it to be a looser gauge and make it go even faster.
Yeah, this is the beauty of those nice and bulky yarns. If you're in a last minute gift crunch, go ahead and pick that nice fat yarn.
Yes. All right, so here are two options of the variegated ones. And these colors are also available at Michaels, michaels.com or in the store. I really like the way the variegated ones work up. They give you really nice color. So with this one, you can kind of see on this pattern, you can kind of see how that cowl is working up and see the different colors in it. And oh, I had another one with the, and this one is this sweater here is also variegated, but it's much more subtle. So sometimes it's a more subtle effect, and sometimes it is a more striking effect. And so this one, the other one had 106 yards, and this one has 87 yards. And so, as Claire pointed out, you might need, if you want to make a project and you've made it out of woolly solids and you enjoyed it, and now you want to make it out of the woolies variegated, you might need extra yarn. You might need 1 or 2 more balls. So make sure you're double checking that, because that would be disappointing if you got home and didn't have enough. Any
And what are
questions?
those 2 colors you have there?
These 2 colors, this one is City Light, and it's quite colorful. It's a dark, it looks like black, but it's more like a midnight blue background. And then it has all these fun colors going through it. So it's really fun. It's really nice, cheerful. And this one is called Abalone. And this one is a gray background. And it's supposed to be reminiscent of like the abalone shells, like the oyster shells. So it has like some purples and grays and some other shades in it. Some turquoises or blues, like, you know, kind of like right there. It's kind of dusty kind of colors. They're not bright, so, but very pretty. This would be very, either one of these would make a great scarf, hat. I think a cardigan would be nice because you could wear it as a jacket. What would you make out of it, Claire? What have you used it for?
I was gonna say the abalone there is one of my favorite variegated because it's a little bit more subtle. And so, you know, if you wanted to make a full garment in it, but you're not used to wearing lots of colors at once, that'll work. And then you can sort of coordinate and pick out 1 or 2 of those speckles to match with the rest of your outfit there.
Yeah, you could wear like a teal. There's a little bit of teal in it or some dark red. Yeah, that would be real cute. And then you could match it. But I've made socks out of this yarn and used them like a house slipper. So like when there's cold nights when your floors are cold, very warm and snuggly. So if you want to make like an extra large pair of socks and wear them around the house for like a house slipper, this is a great choice. So really you can make anything out of it. So I think it's really a fun yarn. And then the patterns that I showed was, so this one also, they're available for free. And we have a cardigan sweater, which I think would be great on those chilly days. And you could wear this as a jacket. You wouldn't have to, you know, wear it inside because it is a very warm yarn. And then this cowl, it shows the variegation a little bit more. And that one's really pretty and fun to make. And then this is a crochet project. And it is a very long, fun scarf. Kind of a lacy scarf, and that one would work up really fast. I think that's really pretty. Have you ever crocheted with this one, Claire?
I was just gonna say the crocheting with a big yarn like this, it makes, you know, sort of those very dramatic, oversized statement stitches too. So
Yeah.
much different than working with like a crochet thread if you're used to that.
Oh yeah, if you were used to crochet thread, you'll be very, very surprised with
You're
this.
gonna fly right through this project.
It'll feel like you're just flying, so fun. But I like to crochet with big yarn like this because it really, I mean, crochet goes faster anyway. So when you crochet with it, you feel like you're finishing in no time. Now we have the ones that work up this. These are the prints and stripes, and there are also some metallics, but I don't have an example of the metallics. This one, so they're all made out of the same fiber, 80% acrylic, 20% wool. All of this Woolly Stick and Quick are all number 6 super bulky using a 9mm 9mm knitting needle or a 9mm crochet hook. They're all the same. It gives you a little estimate here. So you need about 2 of them for a scarf. 1 will do a hat, and 7 will do like a basic sweater. But you kind of have to double check your pattern. So that's just kind of giving you just a rough idea of how many you might need. And then again, it depends on the size of the sweater. So these are all really, really fun and great. There's such a classic. And this one has, I think it has 87 yards as well. So the variegated Why am I not seeing it? Is it not on here? Oh yeah, there it is. I'm sorry. So it has 87 yards and 5 ounces or 140 grams. So the variegated and the stripes and prints have the same number of yards. So any questions about this one? I have a few patterns to share.
Well, you gotta tell us what colors those are.
Okay. This one, I think this one is one of the most popular colors, and this one's called Hudson Bay. And it's really pretty. I don't know if it's showing on camera, but it's a white back, kind of a creamy white background, and it has yellow, kind of like a yellow ochre, kind of a bricky shred. It has a teal, a gray, a dark blue. The dark blue is right there. That has an orangish one. It has really, really nice stripes, all those colors. And again, it's subtle. It is more colorful than the abalone was, but it's still pretty subtle. And if you don't wear a lot of bright colors and stuff, again, this might be a good way to have some fun colors without going too crazy. And then this one is called Coney Island, and this one's also really pretty. You see the colors in that one. And they work up in a striping pattern, which is fun. And I have some pictures to show for that. So here is a crocheted hat. And you can kind of see how the stripe works up. It's more of a subtle stripe, and they do kind of blend into each other a little bit, but it still gives you that really fun stripy look. And this one is a knitted hat. And this one, I think, shows the stripe a little bit more prominent. So I like that. I think it's really kind of fun. And this one is actually made with the Hudson Bay. And you can see how that works up. And it's really pretty. And these are available on lionbrand.com. You can print them and make them. And then this one, well, that might be the last one I have. So any questions about these?
With self-striping yarns like these, you showed pretty small projects, and I would say, just be aware that if you are working a wider project like a blanket or something, keep in mind that the wider the project, the skinnier height-wise those stripes are going to be. So
Yeah.
don't go picturing that cowl project and think you're going to get the same width of stripes in a blanket, but that's also part of the fun, is to sort of see, how stitch patterns and your gauge and all of that affects the colors of the yarn.
And if you're making a sweater with this yarn, the body of the sweater is much larger all the way around than the sleeves. And so you'll also get a different width of a stripe on the sleeve than you will on the sweater. So that's sometimes a fun look.
Yeah, you can get those sort of uneven stripe patterns, which is a cool look to go for.
I think that's a fun look. So any other questions about this one?
I think we'd better keep moving through the Woolies family here.
Oh, here I printed this just so you can kind of see some of the other colors available. So, and then you can go to their web, go to michaels.com and look at the colors, and you can bring them up and see them very clearly. So, but this one has 15 colors available. And then another classic, this is Wool-Ease worsted weight. And this one has been around for a very long time. I'm not sure how long it's been around, but it's one of our most popular yarns. And it comes in a lot of great colors. There's 16 colors available online.
This is the original, like the mother of the family.
So this is
it's been around
early 90s then.
1991. So a long, long time, 1991.
Oh, really, 91? Okay, yeah. So this one is if it's been around that long, then it's got to be great, because we only keep something around if it's been really popular and doing well. It's a number 4 or medium weight. It's 80% acrylic and 20% wool. Each skein has 85 grams, and that translates to 197 yards. So almost 200 yards on these. So that's a lot to work with. The knitting needle is suggested as a 5mm or a US 8, and the crochet hook is a 6mm, which is a USJ. And it is machine washable and dry cleanable. Is it? Let me read this. No bleach. A machine dryer may be regularly used at its hottest temperature setting. Yeah, so it's machine washable and dryable, and it also says it can be dry cleaned. So, have you used this one, Claire?
Oh yeah, this is a classic yarn, of course.
And I'm actually making a sample of a mitten that I'm for the class that I'm going to be teaching on Monday. Because the Woolies Air is fuzzy, it's hard to demonstrate with when you're teaching. So I was making a mitten for a sample out of the Woolies worsted weight, and so you can kind of see how it works up and how it looks. So it's really a fun. It's really a nice classic. You can do Fair Isle, you can do cables, you can do lace, pretty much anything with this one. It's a nice smooth cable ply, but it also has some fuzz on it. What's your favorite technique to do with this yarn, Claire? Which one do you like?
I was going to say that cables are great with this yarn because it is such a nice round strand of yarn that you get very good stitch definition. So things like cables or, textured knit and purl stitch patterns. It's also great for crochet. If you want to try some crochet cables, try that.
Oh, I find crochet cables very hard. I need to practice them.
It's just post stitches in different orders. You can do it.
I know.
Teach a class on it and then you'll get better.
I know. That's really the best way to learn something is to teach a class on it. It's the truth. So you can see that it's a nice round yarn, and it's really it's a little bit fuzzy, but not so fuzzy. So it'll give you that nice classic look. And I have
Yeah, it's got more of a halo than actual strands of fuzz, I would say.
I love this project so much.
Oh, this is so cute.
There are a lot of the amigurumi projects available, and so this one, mushrooms are really popular right now. I'm seeing them everywhere. So this one's really a fun project, and this is crochet. And a sweater. Here's a sweater. And this again, this one also is crochet. So you could do it makes wonderful garments. And then this is, it's a thinner yarn, so it's much more wearable, and like you can wear this inside. So if your office is kind of cool, or if it's cool in your house, you don't want to turn the heat up, this would be a nice, comfortable sweater to wear inside because it's not as bulky, but it is still nice and warm. It's nice and snuggly. And then here is a knitted sweater available. And that's real cute. And these are all available for free to print. And then here's a knitted hat that's available. And there are many, many, many projects made with Wool Ease because it has been around for so long. Then, we've had an opportunity to make lots and lots of patterns. But if you don't find one that you like, you can make it with any pattern that's calling for a number 4 or worsted weight yarn. So don't be afraid to, find a pattern you like and use a different yarn. So you can always substitute Woolies in for any other yarn that you want. Any questions about this one?
Oh, I just wanted to mention that the price point is $5.99 on this one.
Okay, yeah.
Michael's, which to me is a great deal for that much yarn.
Yeah, 197 yards. So yeah, that is a good deal.
Yeah, like there's that wool, a lot of wool in there. It's great.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
And this one is only available in like the solid and the heather shades, correct?
Yes, that's all we have right now are the solids and the heathers. Does the heather shades have the same price? Or I mean, sorry, the same number of yards?
I think
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, so the solids and the heathers are exactly the same yardage and price. So that's good to know. Keep that in mind. Okay, we done with that one? Any other questions?
I think we're ready to move on.
So here are some really fun granny squares that I'm working on. And I am using this Wool Ease Roving Origins. Now this one is a little bit special because it is 100% wool. So you're getting that a little bit of a different feel, and it gives you that classic, because it is wool, you get that very classic wool feel and wool look. This one is hand wash only, and lay flat to dry, because if you wash it and dry it, it's going to shrink up. And sometimes that's a great project if you want it to shrink up and make a felted project, like a bag or a purse. It would give it extra strength, but only if that's what you're expecting. If you're not expecting it and you make a sweater and you wash it and dry it and it shrinks a lot, you're not going to be happy about it. So be careful with that. This one has 299 yards, so it has a lot of yards on it. It has 140 grams, or 50 ounce, or I'm sorry, 5 ounces. It's 5 ounces, 140 grams. It's considered a number 4 or medium weight. So again, this one could be used for any pattern that calls for a medium weight yarn. For knitting, you can use a size 8 or a 5 millimeter, and for crochet, a J or a 6 millimeter. So it's really a nice classic. I have another project I want to show. Hold on one second. So this is a pillow I made, and I had this on my chair in my living room. And I knitted this in, and then I washed it and dried it. And so you can see how the texture is different. It really changes in texture. It doesn't almost, you can kind of tell that it's knitted, but you can't really see the knit stitches at all. So I did this in garter stitch, so that's why it's kind of raised. It almost looks like a boucle.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like a boucle tweed, like you might see in a fancy suit.
Yeah, so if you do want to try an experiment where you're making a felted, this is actually considered fooling if you knit it first and then wash it and dry it, but most people call it felting. You could make knit a swatch that's 8 inches square. So make a practice swatch, knit it or crochet it, measure it, maybe trace it out on a piece of paper so you have the exact shape of it, and then wash it and dry it, and then measure it. And that will tell you how much it's going to shrink. And then you can kind of figure out how big you want your pillow to be or your bag. They do tend to shrink more this direction than in. So like if you were to wash a sweater by mistake, it would tend to be like much shorter on you, but it might not be, it might almost be the same width, but it would shrink and become much shorter. That's what I find. Do you do any felting or fulling or made any mistakes, Claire?
Knock on wood, never accidentally washed a sweater. I didn't mean to. But I have done bags mostly. It's a great technique for bags because then that closes up all the holes that you get in like a knit or crochet fabric. So you don't have to worry about your keys or your chapstick falling out.
And it also helps to make the fabric more, give it more structure, and it doesn't stretch like, because knitted fabric, and that's one of the great things about knitted and crocheted fabric is they're kind of stretchy, they move with you. But once you felt them, then they become more solid. They don't stretch nearly as much.
Yep. I know a couple cats that have nice felted cat little nests as well. So that's another idea.
They do make great pet beds when you felt them. You can make those caves too. It's like an enclosed, it has a little hole in the front, and the cats can go inside of it like a cat cave. I've seen those, and they're really cool. This one I love wool, so I love to work with wool and with natural fibers. So this one is great for me because I really, really love it. It's very, very warm. It's really soft and snuggly. If you're allergic to wool, then that might not be a good choice, but because it is 100% wool. But for crochet, I think these granny squares are really pretty. What do you think of these colors?
They're very fall.
Very fall. I like fall,
Yes.
and yeah. So this is a solid granny square. You can make solid, semi-solid, or the traditional ones. Any questions about this one?
So because this yarn is a single ply, there's only one strand of yarn twisted on itself.
Yeah,
so it is going to tend to get a little bit fuzzier than like a yarn that has multiple strands twisted together.
Yeah. So that's one of the features of this. It's a very fuzzy or very lofty
Can you move your hands down a little, Darren? You're at the
Right.
corner of our screens. There you go.
And you can see it's not really plied, it's considered a single. And as Claire said, it's considered a pencil roving, and it does tend to get a little fuzzier. So I probably wouldn't make this for something that's going to get a lot of hardware or a lot of use, a lot of rugged wear, because if brushing it up against stuff, or it could make it fuzzy sooner, because you can see it's just a lofty, just a single. They call it a single ply, but it's not really a ply unless it's been twisted, because that's what a ply is, or when you twist two together. So it's kind of confusing. But it's a single strand or a single ply or a pencil roving. Do you like this kind of yarn? This is one of my favorite kinds of yarn.
I do, yeah. I feel like they're very, insulating and warm, and it's a little bit more of that sort of like rustic texture. Maybe not so much with this one, but I know other people that take roving style yards like this, and then you can actually, if you are a spinner, like spin it down even thinner if you needed,
Yeah.
a
Well,
wool fingering weight.
you could do with this one. I mean, you could, well, I think it would be quite hard, but you could make a thin, like a thread out of it, I guess, if you wanted
Yeah.
to spin it more. But yeah, it's a really, I don't know why I love a roving yarn or a single ply like this. It's always my favorite. I'm always attracted to them. And another thing I want to point out, because it is wool, and because we do want to be cautious and be respectful of all animals that we're using in our farms, this one is certified responsible with the responsible wool standard. And what that means is all of the sheep are treated in a humane way. So if you look for this, you can Google this and read about it. This is it's a really important thing to make sure that your animals and that the products you're using are the animals are being treated in a kind way. So we always try to be extra cautious about stuff like that. So are you familiar with that standard and that seal, Claire? Have you seen that?
Yeah, I think that's becoming a lot more popular too. They want to know where the wool comes from, and they're more interested about in the whole process from start to finish.
Yeah. It's kind of like recycled items. They can be certified that they're used out of a recycled material, and they're not just saying that for fun. So yeah, always look for these seals and these certifications. And I can't speak too much about the organization. I know it's a really good, I think they're worldwide. So if you Google this and look it up, you can read more about the actual organization that does that. Okay. Any questions, any concerns, questions, ideas? What would you make out of this, Claire?
I have yarn under my desk right now that's going to become a sweater, hopefully for this winter.
Yay.
I'm going to do like a
Um,
little color work yoke.
And I'm going to make this into a sweater. So
Well, we'll just be so warm and cozy.
this will be very cozy. Any questions from our audience?
Well, we got about 15 minutes left here, so we want to make sure we get through all of the rest of the Woolies family.
I think that's all we have.
Oh, okay. Well, I know there's a couple of members that you don't have samples of to talk about.
I
There
do
we
have
go.
this one. This one is the Wool East Fair Isle. I don't have the stats on it though here. Can you give us the stats?
Sure thing. Let me pull that up.
The
So,
theory or the feature of this yarn is it's a self-striping yarn. So you get the solid pink stripe, and then you get this pink and white stripe, and it works up like this, and it's supposed to look like a Fair Isle pattern. So if you're not familiar with Fair Isle, or if you just don't want to, take the time to do all that extra work, then this yarn will just give you that look. And then it changes just like magic. It'll change to this gray, and then it changes back, and it just keeps repeating these colors and these textures and these patterns. And that way you get the look of a Fair Isle project. And I always have to be careful because instead of Fair Isle, sometimes I'll say feral, and it sounds like the mittens are just wild and crazy, like mittens on the loose.
Well, your patterning might get wild and crazy there.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it. Yeah, but the wool ease fair isle, it's self-striping. I would also say it's self-patterning because
Self-patterning.
that multicolor section, it's going to look a little bit different depending upon the number of stitches you have around and your own gauge, but it will make, sort of zigzaggy lines and actual patterns that you might, see on a traditional fair isle sweater where you have to use two separate strands of yarn to get that effect. But in this yarn, we did all the work for you. So it's just going to come up beautifully.
Yep.
And it's a worsted weight yarn. So you could use this together with the regular Woolies worsted if you wanted to add even more solid color stripes to the project.
And this one, it comes in a very large ball of yarn.
Oh yeah, it's an enormous skein. It's
oh, go ahead.
Okay, it is 348 yards per skein. So that's enough for, I think you did a whole set of accessories with just one ball.
Yeah, with one ball, I made these fingerless mittens. I made a hat and I made a cowl that's fairly substantial. It's not a skimpy cowl. So you can make a whole set with it.
Yeah, make a whole set, use a couple different colors and mix and match and trade with your friends. It is like the rest of the regular Woolies family in acrylic wool blend, 80% acrylic, 20% wool. And we recommend a J10 or a 6mm crochet hook or a US 8 5mm knitting needle. Yeah. And while this, like the fair isle pattern there, it shows up best in knitting, you can certainly crochet with this yarn too. And it makes sort of like a more sort of melanged, marled effect rather than actual patterns.
Yeah, but it's still really pretty. It works out. How many, this comes in a lot of colors. Do you know how many colors it comes in? I know there's a bunch.
12, if my quick count is correct there.
And our friends can go on michaels.com and look at the color selection.
Yeah. There's a bunch, that are, some of them are more tonal, where you're getting shades of like blues or pinks. And I know I've made a sweater with one that is like sort of mustard and cream and charcoal, one of my favorite combinations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is a fun one to experiment with.
Yeah, it works out. And every time you make something out of it, it's going to look a lot different. So again, depending on your gauge and how wide your stripe is and how long your project's going to be, it could they're all going to look a bit different.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of making your own item, that it's going to be a little bit unique and there'll never be one exactly like it.
Yeah. So do we have any questions about any of the woolies that we talked about today or any of the projects? Any questions at all?
Oh, Molly put a link in the chat there to the Fair Isle yarn. Thank you, Molly.
Of course.
If you had to pick one, Darren, what's your favorite?
I like the Roving one. I like the origins. The wool ease Roving origins. This one. I think I love that one the most. Which one do you love the most?
Oh, that's a good question. I might go for the classic Woolies worsted just because it's so versatile.
I really like this one too because I love a fuzzy yarn. So, Molly, which one do you like best?
Yeah, Woolies would be my choice as well. Although the Fair Isle, for somebody like me who has next to zero knitting experience, is a very cool way to make it look like you're further along in your crafting journey than maybe you are.
Yeah.
And I
That's right. You'll look very impressive and you could say, oh, this took me hours.
Yeah, all this extra work, it took a long time.
Yep.
Anything else? We almost never finish early. I can't believe I finished early for once. This might be the first time.
Wow, now you're going to jinx us, sir. Well, we did mention some of our upcoming classes. Darren's got the mittens right on top there, and that's what we're going to be teaching you how to make coming up Monday, October 28th. It's going to be the same time, so that'll be 2 p.m. Yes, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. I think I got my time zones right there. And we'll be teaching you how to use those double pointed needles there. So you're wrestling with some hedgehogs. That's what I always think it looks like.
It does feel like that. But the
And we'll
hedgehogs
show,
are adorable, so.
I know they are. And we'll be teaching you how to do that cuff and some increasing for that shaping, some decreasing at the top of the mitten. And you can get started and get ready for when it gets very cold. And then on the following Monday, that'll be November 1st. That is where we're going to be teaching you how to do that solid granny square in the Wool-Ease Roving Origins. Yes, those beautiful fall colors. And so this is like a sort of a different take on that classic open pattern granny square. This one might be better for actual winter sweaters. You know, you don't have those holes to let in all that chilly air. And
Oh,
it's
you
just
know,
another fun technique.
I didn't show the patterns for the origins.
Oh,
I got all excited because it's my favorite. Let me quickly show those. Well, once my glasses are tangled up. Okay, so the origins, it comes in other colors too. It comes in, it doesn't just come in the fall colors. So it comes in all of these. It has 14 really good colors that you can mix and match. And I have this, it's a garter stitch, kind of like fingerless gloves. And that one works up really nice. And I have this crocheted bag, which is really fun. And you could make this bag and use it like this, and then maybe next year wash it and dry it and have a felted bag and use it in a different way. You know, it could look a lot different. So it could be fun. So yeah, so that's 2 projects made with the Wool-Ease Roving. And again, any yarn that's a number 4, any pattern you find that's written for a number 4 yarn, you can substitute the roving for. Okay, that's all. Sorry, I forgot those. I was all excited about how much I love that yarn.
you just skipped right to the good bits, huh?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Well, thank you again, everyone, for joining us. If you need to go back, if you missed anything, reminder that this class was recorded. It'll be posted on the Michael's YouTube channel, so you can find it again there. And we hope to see you again in future classes.
All right. Have a great night. See you next Monday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.